going to go ahead and introduce, and we'll get started with our first guest today. Um, I'd like to introduce to you our first presenters, Mike Brummett from Rivian. He's Director of Crisis Services, and Dana Santo. She is the Chief Clinical Officer of Mental Health Services at Rivian. Both of them are here today to talk about the new Crisis Recovery Center that was opened last year by Rivian in the Mars board. I also want to mention before we do that that we are recording the session. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Mike and Dana. Thank you.
Morning, everyone.
Hi, good morning, everybody. It's nice to be here. Thanks for having us. We have a PowerPoint. Emma, do you want me to pull that up or are you going to pull that up?
Whatever's easiest for you. I do have it ready.
Okay, if you want to pull it up, that would be great.
Yeah, of course.
So we're going to just give a very kind of brief overview of our crisis services that Rivian offers for the county, and then we will get into the Crisis Recovery Center as well. So if you want to flip to the next slide, please. So hopefully everyone is aware of the crisis services that Rivian offers, but first is our 988 program or our crisis hotline. So some of you may remember we had a crisis hotline previously that you accessed through a 1-800 number. So now we're trying to make it as simple and easy as possible. And so you can access those exact same services, exact same staff, all through 988. So we've actually sort of sunsetted the 1-800 number, and now everything is accessed through 988. So just like dialing 911, or for those of you who may be a little bit more seasoned, like myself, if you remember 411, it's kind of the same concept. So 988, and we answer the phone 24/7, so all times. And then when you call, if anybody's in a behavioral health crisis, whether that's a mental health crisis, a substance use disorder crisis, any sort of thing that you need, we can respond over the phone. So we offer supportive listening, crisis intervention, and then you'll see here we do what we call active rescues. So we do answer the hotline for Lorain County and then several surrounding counties. But if there's some sort of coordination that we need to do with law enforcement or EMS or any of that in our surrounding counties, we're able to stay on the phone and ensure that that connection is made and that someone's services and needs are addressed and taken care of. Next slide, please. The other thing that we offer here at Rivian is our mobile crisis team. So this is still active and running. So this is a 2-person team that will respond in the community to any sort of behavioral health crisis. So when someone calls into 988, if we're not able to kind of resolve what's going on with them over the phone, then we are able to send a team. It's a licensed crisis clinician and then a trained crisis support staff out into the community. We're able to do an emergency assessment, determine the appropriate level of care that somebody needs, including pink slips. So if somebody needs to be pink slipped, our team is trained and able to write those pink slips, administer them, and facilitate that transport to the next level of care. And then we do follow up. So once somebody is transported to the emergency room, we're able to follow up, check in, make sure they got there safely, relay any information that's needed to that emergency department, and again, just make sure everybody's getting what they need. Next slide, please. The other service that we have is our warm line. So this is accessed the same way through 988, and this is for someone who needs some support in the moment, but isn't quite at that crisis stage. So our warm line is peer-led, which means everyone answering the warm line and responding to the warm line is someone who has lived experience of either a mental health or substance use disorder issue. And then they're there to provide support, talk with the person, and be that listening ear for anybody calling in. So our warm line is active 1 p.m. to 11 p.m., 7 days a week. And like I said before, it's accessed the same way by calling 988. And then those who answer the phone will determine whether the person calling in needs the more crisis clinician or crisis assistant conversation or needs the warm line conversation. So they'll automatically connect them. Next slide, please. All right, and now we're at our Crisis Recovery Center. So we're super excited to say that our Crisis Recovery Center opened October 1st of 2025. So we've been in operation for about 5 months now. Things are going very well. We've served over 1,000 unique clients so far. So we are super excited about that. The word is getting out, which is great. Our Crisis Recovery Center is located at 6130 Broadway Avenue in Lorain. So if you're not familiar, it's right next door to the old Nord Center's main building. The main building is still in operation. We are now Rivian, and then the Crisis Center is right next door. The Crisis Center is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All somebody needs to do is walk in, and we're able to serve them and respond in whatever way is needed. Our first floor is kind of houses our intake area, and then also our crisis intervention with observation area. So in that area, we have 16 reclining armchairs, so not beds, but armchairs, and someone is able to stay for up to 23 hours. So we are not a hospital, not an inpatient facility, but so someone's able to stay for 23 hours. And during that time, we will do whatever is needed to help resolve the crisis, again, in that 23-hour time period. So we can offer crisis intervention, we can offer assessments, linkage to resources in the community. When somebody comes in, they will see a nurse, they will see our prescriber, they will see a crisis clinician, and really, and we also have peers. So they will also see a peer, again, that person with lived experience. So we're trying to wrap anybody who walks in this integrated treatment model so that we can respond in whatever way is necessary and help them resolve the crisis to the best ability that we have. If we determine that someone is not able to have their crisis stabilized or resolved in that 23 hours, then we can facilitate somebody going to the next level of care for whatever that may be. We also have a first responder drop-off entrance specifically for those first responders. It is around the back of our building, but we have designed that to allow law enforcement or EMS, although EMS have not dropped off yet, but for law enforcement to drop somebody off and kind of be in and out as quickly as possible so they can get back on the road and back to their, primary responsibilities of those law enforcement duties. So our goal was to have law enforcement in and out of the building within 7 minutes. I believe we are averaging about 3 minutes right now, so we're doing really well with that. And all we're asking of law enforcement is that they, come in, give us a quick, brief history of what's going on, kind of hand the person off to us, and then we kind of take it from there, and they can get back on the road. So that is our first floor. Mike, I don't know if there's anything that you feel like I missed that you want to add.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that EMS is not bringing people to us, not because of they're not satisfied with it. It's because Medicaid will not reimburse them for coming to our facility at this point.
Thank you. Yes, so we are advocating at the state level to change that reimbursement model so that we can have EMS drop-offs at our building. EMS does respond to the building if we need them to help transport somebody to a different level of care. So that does still happen.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Is this only for mental health or is this also for drug and alcohol? And is this for 18 years old and over?
All good questions. So this is for drug and alcohol as well. So any sort of behavioral health crisis we can respond to. We are primarily serving 18 and older. However, if a child, adolescent, family comes in, we will contact MRSS, the Mobile Response and Stabilization Services, which is kind of the mobile crisis for Lorain County for children and adolescents. And then we will allow, like, we have a space, we call it a family waiting room, where MRSS can come to our building and do what they need to do to help the situation so that we don't need to have that family who's come in to go someplace else or make it inconvenient for them. But our 23-hour observation area is designed primarily for 18 and older.
Thank you.
Great question. And then if we want to flip to the next slide. So this, oh, sorry, this is a rendition. We need to take some actual photos. I've not done that yet, but this is a rendition of what the armchair, like that first floor crisis intervention with observation area looks like. So there are some partitions there to allow for a little bit of privacy, but most of it is open. There are these large windows letting all the sunlight in, and we really want it to be a recovery-oriented, hopeful space with lots of sight lines so that we can see everything in the building is behavioral health rated. We had a behavioral health consultant come in and make sure that we are at the highest safety standards for any sort of behavioral health crisis that is occurring. Next slide, please. So then the second floor, which goes to the question about alcohol and drugs. So on the second floor, we have a withdrawal management or detox services on the second floor. So we have 16 private rooms up there. And our average length of stay is about, we're saying about 3 to 7 days, depending on what the person is withdrawing from and what their substance, the symptoms are and what their substance use of choice is. We will take anybody who's withdrawing from any substance except methadone. And all the services that we offer up there, we offer group services, individual counseling, peer services, medical management, linkage to recovery support, really helping people who complete with our detox services get linked to whatever services they need in the community so that that recovery continues. Mike, anything you want to add?
Just that we are, along with the peers, we do make sure they get a warm handoff to that next level of care. So even if they're doing outpatient, we try to keep them until it's time for their group. Then we have transported right to the group just to make sure we don't miss any opportunity for them.
Also, I want to make note that our services are available to anyone at any time. And we don't want payment or fear of being able to pay to stop anybody from coming in. So we will serve somebody regardless of their insurance status, whether they have it, they don't have it, anything like that. We have support from our Mental Health and Recovery Services Board to help us with operations there. So we don't want payment or fear of payment to be a barrier for anybody coming in and accessing services. Next slide, please. So this is a picture of the outside of the building. As if you drive by, you can see it looks basically just like this, except minus some of the green areas right now. But we are very excited to have this open and have received the response from the community that we've received so far. It's been really, really great. Any questions, any other questions about the Crisis Recovery Center? Okay.
Well, I
Then
can add one more thing.
Yes,
mind
please.
real quick. So today we're actually going to have a celebration because we've met our 1,000th client. So we just want to remember this moment that we've actually seen over 1,000 people, and 1,000 people of our chances for hope.
Thank you, Mike. And then I think most people are familiar with the services that Rivian provides, but I did want to draw everybody's attention just for 30 seconds to the fact that we have started primary care services here within Rivian. Anybody can access our primary care services just by calling our main number and making an appointment. They do not need to be a client of Rivian's for any behavioral health services. So somebody can come to Rivian just for primary care and not be a behavioral health client. So we are excited about this. We've been operating primary care for about almost a year. I think in April it'll be a year. We're really excited and hoping to get the word out there about this as well. And then I think somebody raised their hand.
Yeah, that was me. So I
Okay.
just had one quick question. I heard that the Key was closing, so the women's treatment facility in Lorain. Um, is there, so I'm wondering if there's somewhere else that, and I don't know of any place else that women can go with their children or how that's going to be set up. And if you guys
Yeah.
have any specialized, like if I need to refer somebody after the date they close, where it would be a good idea to do that.
Yes, great question. Thank you.
Mhm.
So yes, our Key women's residential services only, we will
Yeah.
be discontinuing that as of June 30th. What we were finding really is that the need had diminished for that type of women's residential services. So our outpatient services are continuing. But what
I
we've
got it.
seen in the addiction space is that more and more people are living in recovery housing or sober living, and then really getting their treatment through intensive outpatient services.
Like
So
day
we're
treatment or
we're
something.
moving more in that model. So what I would recommend is if you're looking for that type of service with the women's residential is to reach out to us and we can kind of help direct someone where they need to go. There are some
can come
sober
in.
living
This is muted.
facilities in Lorain County, particularly
How,
Road
what
to
happened
Hope,
with him?
who
Did he
have
show up? Did he get in the car with Sarah?
Oh, I think maybe somebody should. Okay, thank you. Road to Hope does take women with their children in their recovery housing and sober living, and then they do connect them with intensive outpatient in the community. So that is a really good resource. And like I said, we are still continuing our women's outpatient services there, including our daycare there.
Okay, cool.
So that is still going on.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for bringing that up. Any other questions about the Crisis Recovery Center or Rivian services in general? Okay, I think if we go to the next slide, I think it's just a question slide potentially, or our mission statement. Yes, okay. All right, well, thank you so much for having us here today, and we're excited to share about the Crisis Recovery Center at all times, so thank you.
All righty. Well, thank you so much, Dana and Mike, for sharing all of that really important information. We really appreciate you guys being here today and for all you do for our community. I think we can move on if there are no further questions. And so this morning we will be hearing from Stephanie Beal, maybe. I believe she reached out regarding a situation that came up. Stephanie, are you still on?
Hi, Emma. Yeah, I'm still on. My counterpart, Christy, should be joining any second, but I can get us warmed up just a little bit. And then my hope is when she joins, she'll be able to share the PowerPoint and then take over the presentation.
Okay, perfect.
Emma, can you let me know, because I can't, I'm just on my phone. Can you let me know if Christy joins, and then that will help set me so I know when to transition it over to her.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Is it okay if I just jump right in?
Yeah, if you're ready, go ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you everyone for this opportunity for us to join your meeting. We're really excited to share a little bit about Connect, the organization that I'm from. We've been partnering with Lorain County Children's Services for several years around specific programming. Some of you may have previously heard of the program Connect to Family. We're also working with Lorain County Children's Services on a program called Youth Centered Permanency Roundtables, which is specifically targeted at our older youth who have been in experiencing foster care for 12 months or longer. We've also had the privilege to work alongside the Lorain County community in several grant projects with the Nord Foundation and some other funders. So we're excited to be with you today and just giving that a little bit of that context. My name is Stephanie Belil. I'm a program director at Connect, helping to support our Connect to Family work and then youth-centered permanency roundtables. Connect is actually a Cleveland-based nonprofit. We serve all of Ohio as well as several other states in the nation, really working on everything focused on kinship. How are we building connections and sustainable caregiving for our youth that we are serving, whether they're experiencing child welfare or even informal. So when we think about our kinship families that are in our community, our grandparents that are supporting their family members in an informal way, we also have opportunities for supporting them as well through our programming. We have a kin first approach, which is what we're hoping to share with you all this morning. One, to give some background information around what does a kin first actually mean when we use that language, but also to share some opportunities that you all might be interested in getting involved related to kin. We know that whether you are coming from a provider background, from a community background, or a court system, we all are interacting with kinship families at certain times, and being able to have a solid approach as well as language that we can use to support these specific families is really critical in ensuring that we have best practices in place and that our services and outcomes are achieving what we're hoping for those families, no matter what service offering we're providing for them. So I mentioned just briefly a few of the programs of Connect. I'm going to spend just a quick minute talking about each of them. So Connect to Family, and this is a program that Lorain County Children's Services used to implement. This is a program that is solely focused on intensive family finding. We have children that are either experiencing or at risk of foster care, and we essentially work a little bit like private investigators, and we find family as quickly as possible to transition them from foster care, stranger foster care, into and back into the community and back in with their kin. We use a whole bunch of different resources in order to do this. Our specialists work with urgency and diligence in order to move those children in with family, and then we work to support those families. So it's not just a caregiving arrangement. It is really then working to see how do we sustain those youth with those kinship caregivers while either their parents are working services or sometimes indefinitely. And that is where our provider relationships really become critical. How are we ensuring that these youth have access to behavioral and mental health services, as well as ensuring that the caregivers have all of the basic needs met and covered when they're attempting to care for these children. So we have implemented in over 41 counties here in Ohio. We've served over 3,700 children, which is really exciting as we continue to partner with the Department of Children and Youth, really closely related to this work. The other program that I mentioned was Youth Centered Permanency Roundtables. This is the program that we're currently partnering with Lorain County Children's Services on. As I mentioned, this particular program is really targeted for our older youth. We know that they need a lot of support as they're approaching adulthood, not just from our providers in our communities, but also really working to secure that social network for them. How are we ensuring that they have supportive adults that are helping to mentor them, helping to guide them? We know that we need those supports, not just until we turn 18. All of us need those connections well into adulthood and as we become parents ourselves. What YCPRTs are essentially a case consultation or a meeting structure that really puts youth at the center of the table. We work with them to find out what they want for their permanency journey, who are the connections and the important people are to them, and then we work in partnership with professionals to bring them to the table. There may be times as we're working with Lorain County on this particular program that you might or some of your colleagues might be invited to a YCPRT meeting. So sometimes we have our providers join if they have that particular relationship with that youth population and they're being served through this meeting structure. But we're doing everything that we can in order to ensure that the youth voice is really being elevated and at the table. So while there are a lot of professionals, we're trying as best as we can to ensure that the youth voice is heard as well as their supports are being heard as well during that process. Those meetings are typically every 90 days, but there is some flexibility to that. And sharing just a little bit about that, because there may be times if you're working with that specific population that you may be invited to participate in a roundtable as we work towards achieving a relational and legal permanency for the youth that we're serving. A couple other programs. Oh, Emma, I saw you come off mute. Did Christy join?
Yes, I believe she just joined us.
Okay, perfect. Christy, I just did a brief overview of Connect, and I started with just the overview of Connect to Family and YCPRT, but didn't get to Ohio Can and Connect You.
Okay.
So I think it should be the second slide. So if you wanted to, I'll hand it over to you if you want to introduce yourself and then jump right into that second slide would be great.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. Give me a second. So I think Stephanie was walking through all of these. So let me back up. And thanks for everybody's patience as we work this out. My name is Christy Burry, and I am the Chief Strategy Officer at Connect. It sounds like Stephanie already told you a bit about our organization. I will add that I've been with Connect for about 3 years, but have worked with our executive director and with this organization since, I don't know, 2010, maybe when I was a county director in Fairfield County for Children's Services. So prior to this, I spent about 22 years in public service at the county and state and child welfare and graduated from public service. And now I'm at this great organization. So I think I heard her say she's talked about Connect to Family and Youth Center Permanency Roundtables. Another program that we administer statewide across Ohio is Ohio Can. So that's the Ohio Kinship and Adoption Navigator program. So we are serve all 88 counties. This is set up regionally so that those navigators and our staff, the navigators embedded in the community, working for community agencies, and then we are provide coaching and technical assistance and training and all of those types of things. So that's a real community-based program. It's available. It's free, and we serve both formal kinship. So when the Children's Services Agency is involved, as well as informal. So for any kinship caregivers or adoptive parents across communities. We also oversee a youth navigator network, which is very similar. It's navigation services for young people in foster care who were in foster care to help them kind of navigate the systems and help make sure that they're linked with resources, explore their natural supports, all of those types of things. And then Connect You. Connect You was built from the ground up as a different branch of our organization. It's our training and consulting and program replication branch of the organization. So we do a lot of training outside of the state, of course, all across Ohio, but we have begun, we've done statewide training for kinship and Kim First across California. We've been in North Carolina, and we have a number of courses that are available on our website if you're interested, or you can call me if you want to know more about that. With that, I will say, because we are strong advocates of making sure that kids stay with their family and kin in their own communities and their own schools, we Connect is pretty good at gathering people. So we are having a Kim First convening at the end of the month. There are still open seats. If anyone is interested, it's in Newark at Cherry Valley Lodge or Hotel. And we have a number of, these are our 3 keynote speakers. Some of you may have heard about Dr. Joseph Crumley and Galen Elmore. He tells the story of his own lived experience of being in foster care and transitioning to kinship, getting the opportunity to transition to kinship with his football coach in high school. I don't think until his senior year, maybe junior or senior year, he went on to the NFL, and he's just an amazing speaker about what it means to belong and be part of a family and your culture, your heritage, and your kin. And then Judge Thorne is great. I've heard him speak a couple times, and he really gets on the stand and talks about all of the things that he did wrong when he was on the bench. So, and then we have other speakers too. So let me know if you need more information about that. I think she then is transitioning to our focus and our approach with Kin First. We have a Kin First Advisory Council with county leaders, people with lived experience, private organizations that we bring together to help us advance the development of Kin First strategies and approaches to really shape our collective direction for all of Ohio's agencies and courtrooms, providers, communities, workforce. So we're not looking at this just through the lens of the children's services system. And because we know that these other agencies in the community, we know other nonprofits, we know other service providers, the courts, all of them play a part in the lives of families and kids when families are in the children's services system, or to help us keep kids out of the children's services system. So we do a lot of work with this advisory council to help drive our program delivery and training strategies. So what do we mean by Kin First, or a Kin First approach? We've wrapped some definition and language around what this means for us at Connect. And then for that Kin First Advisory Council, we think it's really important. Language is powerful. And we hear a lot about, of course, people think kids should be with, their relatives or with other people that they know before going to stranger foster care. How that plays out in practice, though, doesn't always align with that vision. And sometimes it's just a different interpretation of what we mean by Kin First. At Connect, we are talking about building purpose and policies and advocacy and decisions for funding that prioritize family and kin across all of our collective systems as the default. And are we putting as much upfront time, effort, resources, and investments early on with the family to ensure that they can stay together. And if a child has to separate from their parents or their caregivers, we should feel good that we've done everything possible to explore their entire family tree and keep them with family. We know statistically kids who are with kin have more contact with, their parents, for example. They are more likely to reunify with their families. So we use all of that good research and data to kind of guide those decisions. Looks like she broke this up. So this is what I mean about us being clear. We're not talking about the Ohio Revised Code or administrative code when we talk about definitions. We talk about language and culture. And so at Connect, we've defined that. And again, we use that advisory council. We met with youth advisory boards around the state and other people with lived experience to help us get this right and make sure that the language that we're using that then is infused into our programs, our work with counties, and training and consulting aligns with this. So Kim First is an approach and a mindset for all of us, organizations and systems that touch the lives of families and youth and children. And it's really rooted in the belief that families have dignity, they have strengths, and we want to honor them as experts in their situation, even if they're facing challenges or there are concerns, or we have to explore, other caregivers. It's really important. So this needs to drive our work. Kim First Culture then establishes our expectations as a community that we want to center family over systems. It's as simple as that. We know about the bureaucracy. We know that all of our systems are hard to navigate. We have our own jargon. We have our own approaches, and it's confusing for family members. This is really still recognizing that and grounding us in just the ensuring that we are putting families and centering them over our systems. And it requires mutual commitment that families, young people, and children deserve a sense of belonging. And again, it's just a mindset. And we often say kin is family and family is kin. And why wouldn't we prioritize that thinking and that approach and that mindset in all of our work, especially in the children's services space? And so what does that mean when we say, how do we build a kin first culture? It requires intentional investments, training, policies, practices, partnerships, public and private partnerships, and really emphasizes the power of family and the connections and how powerful that is to have connections in their own communities. So that's some of those language things that we feel passionate about. It drives everything that we do. And again, the way in which we organize our program delivery and training to kind of make sure that we're all in the same place, at a county level or at a community level when we are working with children and families. I already said that. So we, as part of our work with the council, we recognized that there are different domains to consider. And I kind of got at this a little bit naturally just with those definitions that we just went through. But we came up with this visual because it really is circular to show that this isn't a conveyor belt that families go through. First your children's services, and then the courts get involved. And then we're going to make a referral to a community service provider because it's a case plan requirement. So that's not how it feels or how it should be when actually it's how it feels sometimes for families that they're going down this linear path and coming in contact with all of these different domains versus it being circular to demonstrate this continuous pattern and how we all are as systems and organizations and professionals and those providing services and resources to families at a local level, for example, how we all intersect and how we all kind of collectively ground ourselves in some of the same language and that same kind of vision and hope for what we want with families to keep them together. So we've talked about Kim First agencies, and we're really focusing on the public children's services agencies in our work. We know that at the front door, when Children's Services gets involved, those intake caseworkers cannot do the level of family search and engagement and planning with kinship caregivers and making sure that parents perhaps are part of that. There's a difference between a worker trying to explore some family members and maybe finding, grandma and grandpa on both sides of the family and maybe an aunt or someone else versus while they're doing all of their other work with the courts versus having a specialist that's trained in, almost private investigators and searching high and low for family and looking for anywhere from 80 to 150 family members on their family tree as potential options, not just for a placement, but to wrap around supports around the young person and the grandma as far if she is the central caregiver. So that's what we're really focusing on through our programs, that kind of model and approach. We've also done a lot of work with Kim First courtrooms. And so what does it mean for the courts to also align with the same understanding of Kin First and holding us accountable for making sure that we're doing all of that diligent work up front. We've tried to create more preventative resources and services and support for families early on when they first are experiencing challenges and need that. And then how are we inviting kin in to court hearings, for example, and keeping them involved and aware of where they're at with the process. Kim First providers, so placement. So this is a lot of our private providers that are providing foster care services. So our work, what can we do? What's their part in also recognizing the power of kinship and connection so that if a child is in a foster home because there absolutely was no one to provide that temporary daily caregiving in their home, how are those providers still prioritizing that kids have contact, not just with their parents, for example, that they may have been removed from, but who else do they know? And how can we maintain a sense of belonging and relationship with their family and others in their community. So it's just an example. Kim First Communities, I think this is I was pulled into this quickly for Stephanie, but more of a community county-wide meeting. And so how do all of us collectively check ourselves? Do we all agree that we should search high and low and that all kids deserve the right to know who they are, who their family is, what their heritage is, especially if they're being pulled away from their parents, and that we're going to do everything possible to make sure that happens. And then we're going to wrap supports around the kinship provider to make sure that they are getting the same level of resources, support, access, as a stranger foster parent would. They might not have prepared for it. They might not have gone through some extra training that some of our foster parents have gone through. Their homes might not be ready and prepared. But what's it going to take from us as a community to ensure that we can make that happen, so that child has the same opportunity to be with their family as others. And then Kim First Workforce. This all is about us as professionals coming together in situations, and this is a good example of that, to hear this common language, know more about these resources and programs that are already embedded into your communities, and how can we continue to build upon them. This probably says a little bit of what I just said. Making this gets at that shared commitment, interdependence. If there's a gap in any of these domains, then families fall through the cracks. We can do all of this good work in the courtrooms or with agencies. We're training our workforce. Communities are doing good preventative work, and supporting kin families in this way to best serve kids, young people, and children. But if our providers that are involved providing services, that a child is kind of isolated and loses contact from everyone, their friends at school, their teachers, their coaches, let alone their grandparents, even if they haven't seen their grandma for 15 years because of whatever family dynamics were going on. If we're not prioritizing why that's important and making that happen here, then we failed when it comes down to ensuring that the young person and family are at the center of everything we do, and that's what's driving all of our work, not system approach. So that's why this circular perspective is so important, because it's each area is interdependent on the next. Our Kin First Advisory Council, we've done some work with them. Again, there's lots of different perspectives from all of those domains as part of this council. And we've done some work with them, and they have really narrowed it. There's many, but to some key priorities right now that we know is important. And this is what we also then share with our state departments too, whether it's Department of Children and Youth or other state agencies. So as it relates to everything that we've just talked about and infusing this approach, and then the strategies and investments and training and everything around that, we first have to really just focus on building awareness and strengthening the value and belief in kinship. Like I said earlier, we hear a lot. It's hard to argue that kids should, stay connected with their families or get reconnected with families that maybe they lost contact from. But when it happens, when we're in the moment and this work happens, some of that oftentimes is not prioritized in practice. So it's really about building awareness and alignment within our communities. And do we all believe that this is best for kids? And then what are we doing to make sure it happens? Advancing communication. So whether it's at a community level, whether it's at a statewide level, what conversations are we having across our communities, across those domains, for alignment? And how do we work together to make sure we're not part of the domain that isn't aligned, and where families and children can fall through the cracks? And then domain-specific strategies. So we've done some work on some just key strategies in each of those domains that we're working through right now, and are always open to bringing in more perspectives from county partners or community agencies, and would love the opportunity to continue working with you, or Stephanie's team, kind of sharing more about what they're doing, and get your perspectives. How can connect at through our programs and services and networking across the state, how can we help you at a community level do this work? And that's what's important. And I didn't know that slide was there, but I must have been thinking about that. And Stephanie included her contact information. Again, my name is, I'll put my contact information in the chat also. If you have more questions or you want to talk through anything more into the details of Connect You, for example, and community level training or coaching or systems work that you may need. And then as well as more information about our family search and engagement strategies that really are parallel with things that others in those other domains can also keep in mind and know that this is what we want to be happening when kids are involved with the Children's Services Agency. But it's also what we want to make sure is happening within the community from a preventative lens to ensure that kids don't come in to care with the Children's Services Agency. We want to provide services through Children's Services. We want to provide that support, but we don't. Our goal is not for kids to be removed or put in foster care if we all these domains are wrapped around them providing support as well as finding all of their family and non-relative kin that can help us. So it's important. I don't know if there are question times. I feel so silly because I had to jump in this for Stephanie.
No, we definitely have time for questions if there are
Okay.
any.
Thank you. It's good to hear another voice just to make sure it's not target. Any questions, comments? I know we're at time. I'm putting my name and number here too, because sometimes I know this was only a half hour and was a lot stuffed in, and then you had Stephanie start us and then me jump in. So please reach out if you have anything. How awful it is that I have to look at something for my my work cell phone number. I don't remember. I used to have all kinds of phone numbers memorized, and I've lost that skill. All right. Thank you, everyone. I'll stay on for a couple minutes. Thanks, Emma.
Great. Thank you so much, Christy, for jumping in this morning and helping us out. We really appreciate you sharing a lot about this important work that you guys are doing. So
Thank you.
we kind of want to build on this conversation a little bit, and we'll next be hearing from the kinship unit here at Lorain County Children's Services. And I would like to introduce Nicole Schindler, who is our kinship unit supervisor. And she's going to share a little bit about what Kinship has been working on recently.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to take a second here to just share my screen and bring up the PowerPoint that I have. Emma, do you possibly have it pulled up as well? It's for giving me a little bit of trouble here.
Yes, I do have it. Alrighty.
There we go. All right. Good morning again, everybody. My name is Nicole Schindler. I am the supervisor of the kinship unit here at Children's Services. So today we're just going to talk a little bit about kinship care with the agency and talking more specifically in regards to licensing our kinship caregivers to become foster parents as well. So I don't know, Emma, if you have control of the slides since my PowerPoint didn't work. here's the agenda for what we're going to talk about today. Just what is kinship care, some of the types of kinship care, benefits, kinship care versus foster care licensing, and then just conclusions and takeaway. So here is the kinship unit and team. These are the ladies that complete the home study assessments with our caregivers here at the agency. We also provide ongoing supportive services to our kinship caregivers as well. They help assist them with applying for benefits and really help provide supports as we continue to work an ongoing case plan with biological parents and kind of working them through those steps and what that looks like. Just wanted to give you guys an idea of who those individuals were with the unit. Kinship care and kind of in a general provides children involves placing children with relatives or other adults with a kinship bond. This could include a child living with a grandparent, aunt, uncle, older sibling, or it could be even a family friend. This next piece that I wanted to share with you guys is a video of two of our kinship families that we interviewed last year who have actually gone through the kinship care licensing process, and they talk a little bit about why they decided to take on the relatives that they have in their home and kind of the experience that they have gone through and working with the agency.
All right, Nicole, let me know if there's audio with this.
I can hear it. If everybody else can.
At Lorain County Children's Services, we believe every child deserves a safe, loving home. When parents face challenges, kinship care helps children stay connected to families and familiar faces. Today, we are talking with kinship caregivers who have opened their hearts and homes to make a difference.
Come on in. I'm Felicia Jones.
I'm Mark Jones, Senior.
We are the caregivers for 3 of our grandchildren. Well, actually, we have 6 in our home, but 3 we have through the kinship program. Hi, come on in. My name is Christina, and I am a caregiver for Jaden. Jaden wrestled with my son. And during that time, I got to know Jaden and his family. And my daughter became friends with Jaden, and he started becoming a part of our family, like spending time at our house for holidays, going on trips with us. So, I mean, it was a pretty easy transition for us because we already were comfortable with each other. We knew each other. Kinship means to me family. When you think of kin, you think of like next to kin or your family. And so kinship means to me caring for your family, your relatives, getting together, family involvement. I look at it as a program that's set up, for kids from hard places and situations. It's set up so these kids can stay with family and friends.
Help.
Yeah, that's it. Help, kinship, help. This has been a big change in their life, but for the better. I wouldn't have it any other way. We're grandparents. This is what we do, what we had to do. And they are all, thriving and being the best that they can be. And we will try to teach them and have them be the best that they can be. Just watching, him open up and just be a kid and be able to set goals for himself and achieve those goals and having those guards come down and just smile and be happy and, feel part of our family, which he is. I think that's really special to me. Mama and Papa, that's what we are to them. That's just special for me.
We just want them to be safe, basically. We want them to be safe, take care of them, make sure they got everything they need. Now, we're not saviors by any means, but we will make sure they get everything they need. I like the fact that they call this home now. I mean, they call it home. Before it was Mom and Papa's house. Now it's home. I've also been through a lot in my life, and for me, it's like giving back. I guess I have a gift for nurturing, or I'm learning that. And if opening my home and just giving a child like a safe, loving home
can help that child have a better future, like, sign me up.
Anyone is doubting or have any, inklings about not being in the program or taking in, just think twice on it and just know that you're helping keep a child safe and to grow.
Kinship Care keeps children safe, connected, and surrounded by love when they need it most. If you're a kinship caregiver, know that Lorain County Children's Services is here to support you with resources, guidance, and ongoing assistance every step of the way.
Hold on, I can't get to the next slide anymore. There we go.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I love to share that video of two of our kinship caregivers just because it really gives you a good perspective of, why they went into this, and you heard them, specific because they wanted to do this. They wanted to provide a stable place, for children when they didn't have that. So some of the stats I'll be going over in a little bit here too will be a little bit more updated as well because this video was actually done in the fall of 2025. So I'll have some updated stats for you guys as well with how many children we have in care currently. But the next piece I'm going to talk with you guys about is just the different types of kinship care that our assessors work with here at the agency. So we have informal, which is where children live with grandparents or other relatives that are not in the custody of a public child welfare agency, and then formal, where children are in the care of a relative or non-related extended family member who are in the custody of a public child welfare agency. I think it's important to note too that there's just different levels of kinship care. Both actually require an initial home study, and then they can also become licensed like a foster parent, but only for those specific children they're caring for. So just some of the benefits of kinship care, as you can see on the side here, it minimizes trauma when being placed with a familiar face. Maintains those family connections and preserves those family bonds. Those are extremely important for children, especially, with ongoing services and things, and them not being able to remain with their biological parents at that time. Provide stability, continuity of care. They have better outcomes for behaviors, their mental health, their sibling unity as well, if they're able to be placed together in a home with a kinship caregiver. Children feel more secure and less anxious with people they know and trust as well. Those family connections are crucial for a child's identity and emotional well-being. Children are more likely to stay in their own communities and attend the same schools and maintain friendships, also being with kin. Sibling relationships often last the longest as well in a person's life, and they play a vital role in shaping individuals and families if they're able to maintain together. So this next slide here just shows you for 2025 how many home study referrals the kinship unit actually completed. So we had a total of 232 referrals come in, and of those we completed 222. So those are just regular kinship home studies. That's not part of the actual licensing process that some caregivers decide to move on to the next level and become a part of. So kinship versus foster care licensing. So the primary difference between kinship care, foster care, and licensing is the pre-existing relationship between the caregiver and the child. Both provide temporary homes for children in state custody, but they differ in the selection, training, and the financial support that's provided to the families. With kinship care, it's usually a relative, close family friend. It could be that child's sibling. The agency contacts typically the relative about specific child, letting them know that they are possibly coming into an agency's custody and care. Most often, the placement does occur right away. And the kinship caregivers are not given much preparation. And then there are lower stipends unless the caregiver is licensed. And those stipends differ with when they're applying through Jobs and Family Services, and then when they become a licensed kinship caregiver with the agency. Traditional foster care, they are state certified, and those individuals are not related to the child. The caregiver contacts the agency to become certified with Children's Services to become a foster parent. There is state training and licensing before placement that needs to happen. And then there's standardized stipends and a high level of agency support that is provided to those foster parents also. One of the other things too that I wanted to mention is that with caregivers becoming licensed, it's providing daily care, shelter, food, clothing, emotional support to the children that it's in their home. When it's becoming licensing for kinship caregivers, it is called Kinship Guardianship Assistance Program, and I'll be talking about that here in a little bit. And there's certain things and waivers for licensing that we can provide that are not safety related to help move that process along and streamline it to provide permanency for children faster as well. So this slide here just shows you a little bit of the children that are in custody and placement currently. So right now we have 63 kinship licensed homes. The number of kinship homes that have interested third parties of those are 15. Numbering of and kinship homes for kin, we have 52. There are 71 children in foster homes. 17 of those are for network. And for those children who are in congregate care, there are 15 in group homes and 12 in residential. And then the number of children in custody total is 245 at this time. So licensing kinship families, that's the Kinship Guardianship Assistance Program. So what is KGAP? That I'll be referring to is that acronym. KGAP is financial assistance and Medicaid that's funded through federal and state dollars available to licensed kinship caregivers who become legal custodians. So who is eligible for KGAP? So KGAP is available to licensed kinship caregivers who obtain legal custody of the kinship child who has been placed in their home as a foster child for a minimum of 6 months. So the home study assessors will complete an initial home study, and then if a caregiver decides that they want to become licensed, this is the next step, and there is a foster care home study that is completed with the family in addition to that. There are waivers, like I mentioned before, for non-safety related items to try and move that process along, as long as there is no other concerns. The financial benefits during the licensure process include the foster care per diem, which is a daily stipend that differs by the child's age. That's also now provided to the kinship caregivers once they become licensed, which is a huge benefit for them as well. Once the agency has met the required timeframes to file legal custody, ODJFS completes an agreement with the caregivers and they can receive up to 80% of a child's current foster care per diem until they're 18. One of the benefits of the program as well is if the child is 16 or 17 at the time of licensure when they are looking to complete legal custody with the agency, it's called K-Gap to 21. So that child can actually receive those benefits up until they turn 21 years of age if they're 16 or 17 at the time that legal custody is granted, which is a huge, huge benefit for those families. So just continuing as far as for KGAP, in 2025, the assessors licensed 44 homes. And of those, 40 children gained permanency in 2025. So meaning that those caregivers were granted legal custody of those children. So I feel that that was important to include in there as well. So ultimately, while traditional foster care provides a vital safety net, kinship care transforms a period of crisis into one of continuity, ensuring that even when a family is in flux, the child's roots remain intact. So if you guys have any questions or anything for me about the KGAP programming or just some of the other benefits and supports that the unit does provide, I'm happy to answer that for you. I can also include my name and information in the chat as well. So if there's nothing that comes to mind at this point in time, you'll have that to be able to get in contact with me also.
Awesome. Well, if there are no questions at this time, we will move on, but wanted to say thank you so much, Nicole, for sharing some of that information and really just highlighting some of that very important work that is being done by you and your team here in Lorain County.
Thank you for having me, everyone.
Awesome. So moving along, a lot of the topics that we've already covered today kind of include the broader efforts that are taking place throughout Lorain County Children's Services and across the county to ensure that children remain safe, supported, and connected to family whenever possible. So now, with that in mind, we'd kind of like to take a step back and share a broader look of the work that was done by Lorain County Children's Services through our 2025 annual report. And I'd like to introduce Andrea Hall Miller, who is the CQI Continuous Quality Improvement Manager here at Lorain County Children's Services, to share some of that information.
Thank you. You're going to pull up the PowerPoint? All right,
Yes.
thank you. As I go through this, if people have questions, just chime in or write in the chat and somebody will get it for me. Is it up there? I don't see it, right? It's not there yet.
Nope, I
Okay.
am pulling it up.
Okay, thank you.
There it is. Okay.
I'm still, oh, okay. Give me 1 second. Okay. All right, so this is not the final report by any means, but we just wanted to go over some information that's going to be probably in the final report. We hope to get that out probably at the end of May or I'm sorry, at the end of April or early May. So you can go to the next slide, Emma. This is just our mission in partnership with the community, the staff, foster parents, and volunteers of Lorain County Children's Services are committed to the safety and well-being of abused, neglected, and dependent children, and will provide the highest quality protection, permanence, and prevention services to children and families. So that will be on the front page, and then we'll get into some data. If you can go along, thank you. So when I go through this information, we'll be going from intake to ongoing and then to some custody information. And this first slide involves probably a lot of the people in this meeting, and it's the referral sources. So last year in 25, we had 5,575 individual people call in about concerns regarding child abuse, neglect, or dependency with the children in Lorain County. And most of the concerns about safety come from our community partners like you all who interact with children regularly. Schools, you can see, accounted for most of those referrals. And that's an individual people called in with like a school staff. There were 1,392 of those individuals called in. And then followed school reference, mental health professionals, medical providers, and law enforcement or legal staff called in. And out of all of the referrals or all of those people that called in, out of the 5,575, 75% came from mandated reporters. The other 25% come from non-mandated reporters. That includes parents, neighbors, friends, and others in the community that are not mandated. Next, please. Thank you. So when we get referrals, the screeners or hotline staff put allegations to those concerns that you call in. So if you're making a neglect allegation, they'll put a neglect allegation on the referral that they've made from the information that you have given. That accounts for almost half of our allegations. Some of our referrals have more than one allegation. The second leading allegation is physical abuse. That's 37.7% of our referrals from last year had a physical abuse allegation on that. And that's not just bruises or marks on a child. That also can be if a child has been exposed to a substance abuse, or if they've been exposed to domestic violence in which they could have been physically harmed. That will also include those. So it's not just bruises on children. And 8.2% of our allegations involve sexual abuse. Emotional maltreatment accounted for 3.7% of allegations. And then medical abuse is a much smaller but very important number at 2.8% of our allegations. And then we'll move on to intakes. And this is after the screener or referral specialist writes up the intake, they also are tasked with whether to screen screen that referral in to send a worker out to assess a family, or to screen it out, or to refer that person making that call to other community providers who probably can meet the need of that specific child or family. And so you'll be able to see in 2024 and 25, the numbers are pretty similar. In 24, we took a total of 5,334 calls, and in 2025, we took 5,466 calls. We screened out just over 60% in each of those years. And last year specifically, we screened in 1,805 intakes that were assigned to caseworkers who would leave the agency and go knock on doors and assess families and children to see what kind of concerns were brought up, or were called into the agency to assess how that family was doing. Do they need ongoing services? Do they need referrals in the community to take care of any issues, or can we resolve any issues during the phase of intake, which lasts for 60 days? Thank you. And then one of the things that we track too, and this slide is interesting to me. Where do children live? And this involves just intake kids. And you can see about 75% of our intake children have lived in Elyria and Lorain. And that's not surprising, right? Because those are the highest population cities within the county. And then we also included information on some of the smaller cities in Lorain County. We didn't include every city just because they had fewer than 15 kids. So we wanted you to be able to get a look to see how they were dispersed throughout the county. Are there any questions yet? If there's not, that's fine. So after a caseworker does the assessment, they decide if the issues that were presented in the referral can be resolved and the case can be closed, or do we feel like there's enough risk or potential safety concerns with that particular family to transfer for ongoing services. And you can see we had a decline in the number of cases we transferred for ongoing services in 2025. We transferred 302 families. Those are individual children, they're families at that point. And any family can have one child up to 10 children. So it doesn't really give us a good number of how many kids were serviced in ongoing services. But what I think I remember is about from the beginning of the year in January throughout 25, about 1,100 kids were touched through ongoing services. Some of them already had an open case in January of 25. They were eventually closed sometime throughout the year. And then we continued, it's like a rolling number. So at the end of the year, there were about 1,100 kids that were in ongoing services. And as we, one of the things that caseworkers and supervisors are tasked with when they think about, you can go to the next slide, Emma. When they think about transferring cases from intake to ongoing, they really take a look at the risk factors or concerns with the adults in the family. And one of the ways that they do that is every assessment or every referral, caseworkers and supervisors are evaluating risk factors to the adults in that family. And last year, let me pull it up because I took the information just so I can go over it with you. Last year, they completed 1,866 family assessments. And part of that family assessment is looking at those concerns. And there are 7 different areas that they look at with the adults that they are assessing. And in 25, 10.5% of the adults surrounding that child on that assessment, there was a concern about a cognitive ability in that family or with the adults caring for children. In 18.5% of cases, there was a concern with physical health concern with the adults in the family. Just about 50% of the assessments that were done indicated that there was a risk factor for mental health or emotional concerns with the adults in the family. Domestic violence, there was 46% of those cases that were assessed had that concern. Substance abuse, about 44% of our families had a substance abuse concern. Responding to stressors, just everyday stressors. Sometimes the adults that we work with have a hard time regulating themselves and being able to cope with stressors. And that was a concern in about 47% of the assessments that were completed. And then parenting practices. How do parents parent kids? That was a concern about 58% of the time when they were reviewing those assessments or completing those assessments. So that gives you an idea. As we, as caseworkers are completing those documents, the concerns on that family assessment usually make their way over to concerns that would be put on the case plan for the parents or caregivers to minimize or have some kind of resolution that they have been able to do a mental health assessment and get engaged with services, gone through domestic violence classes, or substance abuse education or treatment. Okay, so next slide, Emma, thank you. Sometimes when we become involved with children, we have so much concern that we are looking at custody or separation from the family that we have become involved with. And we track about where children are, like when we have to take custody, where are they placed? And you can see from 24 to 25, we had a very large increase in our custody numbers. At the end of 24, on December 31st, we had 179 children in custody. And at the end of last year, December 31st, we had 248 children in our custody. And then where are those children placed? At the end of 25, 154 children were placed in family foster care. And like Nicole talked about in the last segment, that is a combination of traditional foster homes and caregivers or kinship providers who have become licensed foster parents are in that number as well. 66 children were in kinship care. That is the unlicensed home that we have custody, but those children are placed in those kinship homes. Some of those kinship providers are going through the licensing process, and they would end up becoming licensed foster parents at some point in that case. We also had 28 children in congregate care, and that doesn't seem like a lot, but it's an increase from 24. We had 19 children in congregate care at the end of 24, and now we're I think today, like Nicole went over that number, it's 26 or 27 kids in congregate care. Ideally, we would like to get that down to almost nothing. There are some children that absolutely have to be in those congregate care settings, but ideally, we would like to identify kin or a treatment foster home or somewhere else for those children to go. Next slide. And one of the other things that we track are how long are children in foster care. And you can see from this slide that over the last couple of years, the median length of time that children were in foster care was 10 months. And last year in 25, it was 9 months is the median length of time. But one of the things I have to remind myself, because we wanted to go down, but we also brought in a lot more children. So that's going to just naturally, I think, bring that number down because more kids came in. And then this is an income statement. I don't have a whole lot of information about this other than the numbers. The revenue that we brought in was about $25 million, and that is in large part thanks to the taxpayers in Lorain County that they account for about 52% of our funding or a budget. And last year, the agency had revenue of just over $13 million from the county. And then our expenses last year were $27,578,000. And so we had more spending than we brought in. And a lot of that has to do with the placements, those congregate care placements, and just the cost of providing services to children and families. And I think Emma's going to talk about the next slide.
Yes. So thank you for all of that, Andrea. That was very good information. So in 2025, community partnership continued to be a very important part of our work here at Lorain County Children's Services. And there were a lot of really exciting community engagement events and efforts throughout the whole year. So kind of most notably was the grand opening of the new Lorain County Children's Services Connection Center, which officially opened in October. And this is very exciting because this is where we're hosting visitations for children who are separated from their families. And it really offers a very bright, welcoming, family-friendly environment for those visits to take place. Prior to that, visits had been taking place within our offices here in the county administration building in Elyria. And kind of leading up to that, we were really, really grateful to have partnered with Keep Lorain County Beautiful, and they hosted a volunteer landscaping day where they sent volunteers and we had volunteers from our agency, and everyone kind of pitched in to kind of take care of the landscaping and clean up some of the outdoor areas and really make the landscape there beautiful and welcoming to the community. We also saw incredible support from the community through events like the annual Princess Ball, which is hosted by the Friends of Children's Services. And that event saw record-breaking attendance last year with nearly 300 children and families present. Additionally, we had record-breaking support over the holiday season from a variety of community partners who pitched in and helped donate holiday gifts to more than 600 children. Um, Additionally, we welcomed some very special visitors to the agency as well as the Connection Center, specifically Kyra, who is a therapy dog from Pet Partners, and her handler, Christine. They've made a number of visits to both locations and are really just kind of helping boost morale and, give both agency staff as well as families we work with a little bit of therapy during the day. So that has been really great to work with them. And overall, between the foster care recruitment efforts and other community engagement activities, we participated in 105 total events throughout 2025. So sometimes that was many events in the same days, but really we have had that focus on getting out there and really making face-to-face contact with the community. So we're excited to continue some of that work this year. Awesome. So this concludes this presentation. Are there any questions for Andrea or myself or any of the other presenters from today? All right. Well, if there are not, if anything comes to mind, you are always more than welcome to reach out to us after this meeting. Yes, Chris Ross.
Hi, sorry. I just wanted to just give a little plug for, I know we talk a lot today about kinship care. And my name's Chris Ross. I'm with Lorain County Children's Services. I'm one of the family-based care managers, overseeing, foster care, kinship care, adoption, and all those. We do work really hard here at the agency to look at our kinship families first. That's where we want our kids to be, is with grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles, if they cannot be with their parents. But one of the things that we also have to do is also look at foster care as an option. And so we are always, always, always looking for foster families to sign up and join us in this venture that we're on. We do have, so I'm putting out a plug here. Judith Padua is our recruitment specialist. She was not able to be here. She had a conflict of a meeting, but we have a foster care open house coming up. And I'm going to share this. Hopefully it comes up, but our flyer, you can see the flyer? Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. This is our flyer. We will get this sent out to everyone. And my ask is, if you could post this, share this. This is a panel discussion that we're going to have a couple of our young adults that have experienced foster care be on the panel to ask questions, be available for individuals who are interested in becoming foster parents to ask questions. So again, we will share this in an email to all of you, but if you guys can share this with whether posting in your office or sharing it at any of your community events, that would be wonderful. So if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Chris. So I think we can work off of that announcement a little bit, and we'd really like to open up the floor to everyone here today. If you have any announcements or updates or initiatives that you'd like to share about, we would really love to hear about them. And these meetings are a great opportunity to come together and share that kind of information as well. So,
I have one announcement.
Yeah, please.
So the chapter, the Coalition for Hispanic Leadership conference in Lorain, for Lorain County will take place. The next conference will be April 25th. That's a Saturday. That will be at Lorain County Community College. And then the gala the same evening will be at the Emerald Valley.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
If I can guess.
Trinity, would you like to share?
Yes, good morning. I was making sure my camera would come on. Yes, I would just like to share some program updates from Beyond Healthcare Psych Plus. We have expanded our PHP and IOP in person at our Westlake, and actually all 4 locations, but Westlake is more specific to Lorain County, with ages 11 through 18. We will extend to age 6 through 11 also for our summer youth program. So I've been sending out flyers for that, and we are accepting referrals currently. We do accept Medicaid and most Ohio commercial insurance. And then we have some virtual services throughout the state of Ohio, which include our IOP for age 11 through 18, as well as 18 plus. And then our psychiatric medication management, which is age 5 plus, including Jerry Psych, and that is offered actually throughout all 50 states. And all the programs that we are offering do not have a current wait list, and most families can get in within 24, 48 hours to have not only an assessment, but treatment. So my information is in the chat. I will add it again. So if anyone is interested, I'd love to come out and present Bagels with Beyond, or any lunch and learn, or any tours, or anything that you guys need. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. We did have one message in the chat from Hannah Gates from Lorain County Public Health. And she says, Lorain County Public Health and Bright Beginnings will be part of the second wave of Family Connects Ohio, offering newborn home visits. This program is universal, so all residents of Lorain County with newborns are eligible for the service. We are working on training and credentialing currently, so this will be available in the next couple of months once completed, and stay tuned. Thank you for sharing that, Hannah. That is very exciting. Any other updates or announcements? Yes, Wendy.
Good morning. I'm Wendy Kazmarsik with Ohio Guidestone, and I just wanted to say a couple things. First, we also are offering primary care as of I think we opened in last July, and it's Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to 5 at our Lorain County office. And then also we have a Father's Feelings project that we're getting off the ground. It's a small group thing for new fathers. Kelly Williams, our community support provider, is heading that, and we have flyers available. And we will be at the Connecting for Kids resource fair for those of you that are also probably attending, with more information. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Wendy. Anyone else? All right. I can also take this opportunity to just remind everyone that if you would ever like to present at one of these CAN meetings, we are always open to having new people come and talk about whatever it is that you would like to share with the group in a kind of larger format. So feel free to reach out to myself or anyone else with the agency, and we will get you on the agenda for a future meeting. And let's see. Yes, we will be sending out that flyer for the open house as well so that everyone can have that information. And it will be posted on our social media and website as well. But if that is everything for this morning, I just want to thank everyone for their time and for joining us and for all of the important work that everyone is doing with their respective agencies and organizations. We know that this work is best done with a community and nobody can do it alone. So we really appreciate your commitment to supporting children and families in Lorain County and working to keep everyone safe. And with that, there will be another CAN meeting this year, which will happen in the fall sometime. And as soon as we have a date and location or format for that, we will be sure to send it out. So thank you again, everyone, and we hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you.